Welcome to the podcast of MotorWeek, television's original automotive magazine. MotorWeek is made possible by TireRack.com and by RockAuto.com. Here's your MotorWeek podcast host, John Davis.
And thank you, Alec Webb, the voice of MotorWeek. And I am John Davis, and welcome to MotorWeek podcast number 134. And in our studio today, around our MotorWeek Anything Goes table, is writer-producer Brian Robinson.
Glad to be here, John.
Very good, Brian. Our road test producer, Ben Davis.
Hey there.
We've been missing you lately. Oh. Assistant producer Greg Carlos.
Hello.
And our writer, Patrick Lucas.
Hello, everybody.
Who's also the guy with the bell. And we'll have a lightning round, a viewer question, all our normal things, a rant and rave session. But first, we're going to talk about the 2016 North American International Auto Show in Detroit. I was there along with Greg. Brian Robinson basically was master of the script for the entire event. Everybody, Patrick even monitored all of it coming down the line, since virtually everything that happened during press day was also viewable online. So, okay, I guess let's start off. Anybody give an overview of what they think the show was like, either remotely or there? I'll start with you, Greg.
The show was a pretty decent show. I wouldn't put it there at the top of them. It wasn't one of the more memorable Detroits, but still a lot of good stuff there. Seemed like a lot of high-end luxury or premium brands were revealing some stuff. Saw a few good concepts, in particular the Precision by Acura. And the Avista was very nice.
From Buick.
Yeah, from Buick.
Yeah, spectacular.
And then one that actually kind of fooled some people, I think maybe into thinking it was a concept, was that Lexus
the LC500?
Yeah,
that's not a concept. Brian, you from afar, but still you monitored everything.
I did, and it felt like I had been there before it even started, because with all these shows now, you know everything before they even happen. There were only 2 cars that happened during press days that I didn't already know everything about. So it wasn't really much to get excited about sitting at this end anyway. But
Patrick, you were watching most of the unveils.
I was.
Anything impress you?
There was a lot that was impressive, but again, there were no really surprises. The M2, I'm assuming, is going to be impressive. Surprised at how many sort of luxury coupes, those big sport luxury coupes.
We haven't seen 3 of those show up at one show in a long time.
A lot of pickup trucks.
Ben, did you see anything from the show?
Well, I'm always a big fan of the Raptor, but I had seen that at a Shelby GT350 launch, so that really wasn't new to me either. But that did unveil, though, right?
yes.
The crew cab model did. Yeah. The interesting thing about the show, going in, I have to tell you, I agree with Brian Robinson. Basically, we knew about virtually everything. And when you got the list of press events, I was dumbstruck that on the first press day, which normally we're still going to unveilings at 5 o'clock, it was over before 3 o'clock. And there were very few on the second day. There were also some notable companies that were not there this year, like Jaguar and Land Rover, and Mini also, which always has a booth. So I'm scratching my head and wondering exactly what's going on. Having said that, I think the list of vehicles there was actually better than I expected, largely because of the surprises. Some of the 3 sporty coupes, and manufacturers almost never mess around with sporty coupes unless times are good, because they don't sell a lot of them. They're halo cars. And the Acura Precision concept, whether you like it or not, it was the first big departure in Acura styling in, 7 years maybe, and a very welcomed one, and we only can hope that they're going to do that from production. Some other things that were of note: Chevrolet showed the production Bolt electric car and a new 5-door version of their Cruze, but they had already shown those at the Consumer Electronics Show the week before.
And I think it had been overshadowed a little bit, because the Cruze was actually a very good-looking car in person.
Is.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a real good contender. And sticking with the hatches, and you and I had this conversation, I think, at the airport, whether Americans are really turning to hatches. The Kia Forte 5
was a very nice looking car.
I think so. That could be a pretty good contender.
If they call it an SUV, then it could be, but
yeah,
it's a 5-door hatchback.
Probably right.
Yeah.
Speaking of Kia, they had a concept there called the Telluride. Most people don't remember they used to make a really big SUV called the Borrego, and this looks like this is a foreteller of them getting back into that 3-row market.
The pictures of that were awesome. I saw a lot of especially through the rear D-pillar area, green from profile, it kind of looked like a Soul. So you could tell it was Kia. It wasn't a far departure from their stuff, but more of a Sorento front end to it. I think it was really well done. So,
every time we go to these shows for the last few years, everything's always bigger, bigger, bigger. And so I was a little surprised, well, not really, because I'd seen the spy photos, that the new GMC Acadia is actually going to be smaller.
Yeah.
It's lost about 7 inches. They basically found out that their customers think it's too big. Everybody wants a Pilot or a Highlander, so they've pretty much given it a Pilot's dimensions. And I guess we'll see whether it does well.
Yeah, it lost a lot of weight, too. I think it's down like 700 pounds.
Yeah, it's huge. And otherwise, it's sort of like, looks like an Acadia. It wasn't like it's a big departure in styling. Let's say anything else. There's a new Porsche 911 Turbo.
Ridgeline.
The Ridgeline. You want to talk about that?
I mean, I didn't spend a whole lot of time reading about it, but just from looking at it, it's definitely...
It now looks like a pickup truck.
Yeah, it does. And it's also still very Honda. I wouldn't say it's maybe what the rugged pickup truck buyer is looking for.
No.
But
it is interesting that they've raised the bed floor and shortened the sidewalls, which no one really has mentioned in the press. And by doing that, they've given themselves a virtually flat floor. So they now have a true 48 inches between the wheel arches, which no other midsize truck does. But more importantly, they've got 5 feet of width, all front to back, pretty much without any intrusion, just a little bit. The difference is that you can't go as high. But it is... somebody that just needs an occasional truck, I guess it's good.
Yeah.
Still has a cool trunk under the bed.
Yeah, and it's flatter and actually holds more.
I saw that
Still has the
gate
two-way
opens
tailgate.
a very it did have the two-way
two-way
gate.
gate. Yeah.
I don't know about
cool.
you. I'd sort of forgotten that.
Yeah.
That is a little nicety. It looks a lot like, let's face it, they took a Pilot and put a car, a bed on the back. But still.
Well, it's always been.
I feel like we missed 2 big American reveals. Well,
go ahead.
I guess they were reveals. The Continental and the Pacifica.
Yeah, sorry, but that's – oh, gosh, how can we forget the Pacifica? But you're right. Continental, here's the production version of it. Did you – everybody was pretty oohing and ahhing over it.
Yeah, that's actually the general consensus. Everybody is really kind of wowed by the styling of this thing. And I say it certainly looks good, but I wouldn't say it's anything revolutionary.
It's like the latest in a long line of Lincolns that's supposed to turn the brand around, of which none have yet. So,
but how could we overlook
too
the
soon.
single biggest vehicle at the show as far as volume, and that's the new Chrysler Minivan, which ditches the town and country name, and now it's been going back to the Pacifica
which
name?
is interesting.
Yeah, that's weird. They should have called it a 200 wagon. Looks just like a 200.
Yeah.
Even
that's
to
not
the
a
point,
good thing, really.
You don't like the 200?
I don't like the face of the 200, and I like it even less on the front of that.
It's interesting. When they showed the picture of it, they actually put up a split screen with the van on one side and the 200 on the other to bring the point home. I actually think it looks very attractive. When I first saw the 200 front end, I thought it kind of looked like a Saab, not a good one. But I guess it's grown on me. I like our long-term car. But it is beautiful. It's for a minivan, it's very pretty.
I wouldn't use
It's very attractive.
Yeah, I wouldn't even use that. But it's got a plug-in hybrid version, I think, which is pretty much
with 30 miles worth of EV range.
Yeah, they're definitely stepping out there with that. So.
I heard the rear seat infotainment game is supposed to revolutionize.
Yes, 2 big screens back there.
Real big. And then there's
touch sensitive and
Uconnect was already pretty good. I
They
think that
made
was
their
just
own
updated.
system. It's called Uconnect Theater or something like that. You can separately control everything back there, and it's got a kids setting or something like that. So if you have obviously kids in the back, it has little games and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's obviously the person who buys that is going to love that.
You know how Ford has the hands-free opening of the tailgate? You can now do that with the side doors as well.
That's a nice little feature.
They improved everything. The fold in the floor, second row seats,
Which you don't get in the plug-in hybrid.
You don't get in the hybrid, which is, you're right, and I think that's kind of a deal killer for a lot of people. But you used to always have to push the front seats forward to make them fold. Now you don't. I think they'll, I don't think they're going to get, what was it their word? They want people to say, to sort of forget about crossovers and go back to minivans. I don't think that's going to happen. But it does seem to be that probably the most useful vehicle on the planet is better.
Yeah, that should be. Odyssey is due for a new one.
This year, too.
It should be.
Yeah.
It's
going to be one of the shows, New York or Chicago, one of them, right?
And so I think, when's the last time we had 2 brand new minivans to talk about?
Really?
Year? I guess that means we got to compare minivan comparison in our future.
Can't wait
Track
for that.
test.
So North American International Auto Show in Detroit. It was a good show. I wouldn't say it was a great show, but it was a solid show. And several of the vehicles we mentioned, particularly the new Pacifica, I think are going to be very important for the domestics. Well, we'll see. 2016 is a new year. Okay, there's one other vehicle we wanted to talk about, and it was one of the finalists for North American Car of the Year, which, by the way, the Honda Civic won the Car Award, and the Volvo XC90 crossover won the Truck Utility Award. But Malibu was also in play. Chevrolet Malibu 2016. The question we asked in our road test is, has it finally jumped from rental car to a real contender? Who wants to dive into that one?
I'll take it because I went on the event myself, and I would agree with that statement for sure. It's finally it's a much more stylish inside than it ever has been, and it's attractive from every angle you look at it, but most impressive is the ergonomics and the technology that they've got packed into it now, which is very easy to use for the tremendous amount of tech that's in there, especially when you compare it to an Accord, for instance, with their bi-level screen and all their myriad of controls that just don't ever seem to feel natural, regardless of how much time you spend in them. This Malibu does, and it has, unlike Camry or Corolla or Accord, it does have a true driver's feel to the road, I believe, and
Very solid.
Yeah, and I mean, people beat me up for saying at least it doesn't have a CVT, but at least it doesn't have a CVT.
Well, it's bigger, so you can't. Everybody's always complained about in the last generation, anyway, about the lack of rear legroom. That's solved. Material quality is better. It's all 4-cylinder powertrains, which is kind of the trend, but now it's
turbo
gas under
too,
turbos and a real hybrid, not that sort of pseudo pretend hybrid that they had before.
It's a really sorted out trans too. You're never hunting for gears, and there's always
The
power
8-speed.
under your foot. It's a lot of fun to drive.
Yeah, I would agree with all that. It certainly looks better. The rear seat room was a big thing for many people. Got that sorted out. And it weighs less. It's bigger. Definitely better to drive. Somehow, though, it has less trunk space and less fuel capacity, too, which I guess some people don't care about. But it seems to me if a bigger car, you could kind of add on to both of those.
You do wonder if they stretched.
I don't know.
If they stretched the wheelbase
like
3.5 inches,
yeah.
and they've only given an inch and a half more rear legroom.
Right. It seemed
what
like
happened to the rest of the space?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I guess front or engine compartment. I don't know.
I don't know either. But I think we came away, and we had some questions about some of the materials, although we thought that overall they were a huge improvement. Seats are comfortable. It's a good job. It's a real player in that market. Whether the public will warm up to it is something else again.
Right, and they need to take advantage of it because I'm sure there's a new Accord and Camry both right around the corner.
Yeah, it would take a strong advertising effort because everybody is programmed to buy an Accord or Camry.
But it's a buyer's market right now. If there's any place that's a buyer's market, it's in mid-size four-door sedans because those people all want SUVs. And I guess if there was one thing lacking in the new Malibu is no all-wheel drive option.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, but like the car. Okay, we're going to move on to our lightning round, where those of us around the table have 2 minutes to debate a trending automotive topic. And this sort of was reinforced in Detroit. There seems to be a luxury or premium brand push going on right now. Buick, Acura, Infiniti, Lexus, Genesis is now spun off into by Hyundai as its standalone brand with unique models. So what do we all make of this big push up market? And especially in Detroit, we talked mostly about premium vehicles. Is it a coincidence? Is there a market trend coming? What's going on here?
Yeah, I wouldn't look too much into it. I mean, things go in cycles, and it just happen to be a lot of luxury cars up there at this point in time.
The auto industry is coming off one of its
best record, best year ever.
There you go. I guess they're feeling they could cash in on anything they want.
Well, these vehicles were obviously in the works for a long time. They didn't make this
Right,
decision last month when they broke a new record.
I'll throw out something, and this was kind of the buzz around some of the auto writers, that with all the talk about autonomous driving and car sharing and all, that's going to happen at the lower level cars, the Chevys, the Fords, where they'll have a decrease in production. Everybody seems to think that we'll probably never beat this 17, almost 1.5 million sales we did in 15. And so the only volume is going to come from increasing the upmarket, where people might be buying cars more for individual pleasure and less for just commuting. I don't buy this. But this is one rationale that's going around, and while everybody's saying, I still got to make money, I still got to basically have money to invest in new designs, so I'm going to make it up here where even if I sell less, I'll make a bigger dollar profit, where I'm not going to make anything on the commodity vehicles down here. That was something that was tossed around. Go ahead.
There you go. Greg, you're going to say
You go. No. You go. You go. You go.
You go. No, we remember those.
Volvo, of all companies, which is, I think, as an upmarket brand, they're going to be.
They're doing more for autonomous driving than anybody
standard,
else,
aren't they?
Yeah,
they claim so. That
on the S90.
Well, aren't they talking about doing it on everything?
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm just saying it is.
Well, they have said
S90.
by 2020 they don't think anybody should get seriously injured or killed in a Volvo in an accident, which is an amazingly bold statement to make.
I got a question for everybody. What do we all think of the Genesis kind of branching off into its own brand?
I'll jump in on that. That was the original point
for Genesis to start
when the
with.
original Genesis sedan came out, but it was also right when the crash happened. So it was just too much money, they thought at the time, to launch a whole new brand. So they just put it in the back burner for a while.
This is like the natural evolution of a car company, though. Like, right, a successful car company. I mean, I think it's a great move now for Hyundai to finally get that other brand. Like Toyota has Lexus, Nissan got Infiniti years ago. I mean, it seems like this is the next step for Hyundai to take, and it'll be interesting to see if people can kind of shed that Hyundai stigma, where, that doesn't necessarily say luxury. Whereas Genesis, I think, will have a very good chance at getting people to get past that Hyundai.
Yeah, and a lot of it will have to do with establishing a dealer network that pampers these people the way they feel they need to be pampered.
I mean, look at Lexus. Done very well. Okay, let's.
That was
good. I think we covered it pretty well. Viewer question. It's from Ron this time. He says, I've got 2 vehicles with leather-wrapped steering wheels that are too slick.
Why don't you brag about it?
Yeah, really.
Is there something I can coat them with to make them grip better? Well, you might want to think
driving gloves.
Driving gloves. How about what's the stuff that golfers use on their gloves?
I know
Stick them.
Stick them.
Pine
maybe.
tar.
There you go.
Ron,
Pine tar.
What? Pine tar. There you go.
Then it'll be even dirtier, but at least you'll be able to
Except
grip
now
it.
your hands are going to stick to the wheels.
Yeah.
Ron, try this. Get a really good leather cleaner and clean the leather, because first of all, a lot of that slickness may be coming from oils off your hands that have built up on the leather and filled in some of the grain. And then get a really good leather conditioner that will, if you use it frequently enough, will actually soften the leather up. Otherwise, driving gloves is probably my best suggestion,
like a
too.
steering wheel wrap or something like that, depending on how bad it is.
One of the
One.
lamb's wool.
Which I really hope you don't resort to that, Ron. I honestly do.
Print.
But try, gloves are always good. Driving gloves are always a good choice.
Those chain steering wheels, that would be a good option.
Amongst the same topic, but just slightly a derivative here. Alcantara covered wheels. I hate them. They make my hands itch and sweat, and I can't stand them. What do you guys think?
I hate them too.
I think they feel good at first, but once they actually make your hands dry up, don't they? And they get slippery.
I think they make you feel like you're getting the wheel dirty really quickly, because they really suck up.
Yeah. What do they look like after a few years of use?
They itch my palms. They itch.
Everything shows up on them. Are we ranting and raving about steering wheels? Because I'd love to keep going.
Well, let's go into the rant and rave.
That was a nice segue.
Well, I just good segue. The faux wood or actual wood steering wheels, I hate those. Like
they really
the
are
laminated
slick.
wood. I think Lexus does it a lot, or Toyota does it a lot. My hands, I guess I get sweaty palms when I drive.
Sounds about right.
And my
when someone drives, he drives.
You look like a sweaty palm guy.
I'm a sweaty guy. No, my hands slip right off those things.
Do you remember the old Narda? I mean, most of you guys are too young. The old Nardo steering wheels, the wood ones, the real thin wood ones you would find.
Beautiful steering wheels.
But when you tried to drive with them, they were so slick you couldn't hold.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Part of the problem is the thinness of those wheels.
Yeah,
and that's
they were
just
super
par
thin.
for the era.
Yeah. The wood wheels, that's funny. I find them very disconcerting. They remind me of the old plastic wheels back in the 60s.
It's just like super laminated to the point where it feels like plastic.
Yeah.
It probably is plastic.
Even worse if it's heated and you really need that heated steering wheel. So you've got warm steering wheel
and that
here, and then you go up
section doesn't heat
top,
up,
freeze your hand right off.
What do you like best? Just a good old leather wrap steering wheel, or if you were going to basically put any wheel in your car, what would you put?
It would be probably an Infinity wheel for me, or a Mitsubishi steering wheel. I think I like a lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
And for why?
I think it's the way that Nissan cuts their sports wheels. They're just bolstered really high up at the 10 and 2 position, and then there's just a lot of contour in there, and they're really thick, and they incorporate their paddle shifters really nice.
My big beef on steering wheels is the ineffectiveness of about half of them when it comes to trying to blow your horn. Because of the airbag placement, you either have some you still hit in the middle, but because of the airbag, not only are you hesitant to do so, which is silly, but it's not very sensitive, or you've still got your outboard spoke switches, which you forget they're there. It's like when I want to blow the horn, it's like I want to jam the middle of the wheel and I want it to happen real quick.
I had an '82 Mustang that had the horn on the on a stalk coming out of the column. Yeah, that was hard to remember.
You had to push it in.
I like steering wheel. I like smaller the better, and some controls that I can't easily bump when I'm turning the wheel. That's really all I ask for.
That's a big one.
Controls behind the wheel.
I love that.
Chevy does it a little bit now, but Chrysler was really doing it.
They do the best.
Still really do it.
They do the best.
That Pilot we've got, it's got a lot of them. What about the paddles? This is the age-old question that we've been dealing with for
haven't talked about this in a while.
About paddles, whether you want the paddles connected to the wheel or shift paddles.
Right.
Do you want the shift paddles so that they turn with the wheel, or do you want the shift paddles stationary with the steering column?
Stationary, but only ultra high performance.
Mitsubishi.
Infinity, Mitsubishi.
It is ironic that Mitsubishi has some of the best paddle shifters in the whole.
If they're going to be stationary, they have to be wide enough they have to be tall enough for me to cover, but preferably, I like them. They got to be stationary.
I've come over the years to think that stationary is the only thing that makes sense, because if you're in the heat of the moment and you really want to shift, you're like this, and you don't know where the paddles are. And if the paddles are out of position, you don't want to take your hands off the wheels.
Or the reversed. When you want to go down.
I feel like we're beating this to death, but
we are. But that's what this session's for.
Remember
we are talking about paddles.
The Alpina B7 we had a few years ago, and the B6 we had recently has buttons. That might be the absolute worst possible thing for shifting.
Yeah. Just because it's German doesn't mean that it's the best.
That performance golf that we had at the track was miserable too.
Tiny.
It had them mounted on the wheel that spun with the wheel, but they were so small that
little bitty things.
They didn't come past the spokes. And if you're a track driver and it's a track model, your hands are never going to be there. Your wheel's going to be turned. You're just going to grab a chunk of wheel coming to a right-hander, and your hands are where they should be, but they're never there.
All right, so not that anybody pays us much attention. That's our rant and rave. And guess what? That pretty much does it for us on this MotorWeek podcast 134 that we did specifically so we could talk to you about what happened in Detroit at the North American International Auto Show. I want to thank everybody around the table, Brian Robinson, Ben Davis, Greg Carlos, Patrick Lucas, and in the back, our audio engineer, Jim Bigwood, for making us sound intelligent, even when we don't, podcast creator, Bob Mixter, and the guy with the bell, producer, Patrick Lucas. Hope you'll join us next time for more of our MotorWeek podcast. Remember, MotorWeek can be seen on most public television stations around the country and also on the Velocity cable channel. Go to motorweek.org to check for time and station. Till next time, thanks very much for watching, listening, and any way you can find us, just being with us here on MotorWeek.
You have been listening to the podcast of MotorWeek, television's original automotive magazine. MotorWeek is made possible by TireRack.com and by RockAuto.com. For additional information on podcasts, videos, and showtimes, visit our website at MotorWeek.org. And watch MotorWeek, television's longest-running automotive magazine series, each week on your local PBS station.